The global political context. Also, our third aspect, entanglement in global political fronts and affairs, has long been known to the public at large. The autochthonous defenders of the homeland, who are willing to die pro aris et focis, for altar and hearth. The national and patriotic heroes who take to the woods, i.e., all that is characteristic of the elemental telluric power to repel a foreign invader, in the meantime has come under international and supranational control, which helps and supports, but only in its own interests, i.e., completely other-directed, globally aggressive goals, which it either protects or abandons. The partisan then ceases to be essentially defensive. He becomes a manipulable tool of global revolutionary aggressivity. He simply becomes fired up and is deceived about why he undertook the struggle and about the roots of its telluric character and the legitimacy of his partisan irregularity. In some ways, as an irregular fighter, the partisan always depends on assistance from a regular power. This aspect of the matter is known and recognized. The Spanish guerrilla found his legitimacy in his defensive character and in his accord with a kingdom and a nation. He defended the soil of the homeland against a foreign invader. But Wellington also participated in the Spanish guerrilla war, and the struggle against Napoleon was pursued with English help. Voller Ingram often reminded Napoleon that England was the real instigator and also the real beneficiary of the Spanish partisan war. Today, the context is much more to the fore owing to the continuous intensification of technical means which make the partisan dependent on the constant help of a community that is in a technical industrial position to provide him with the newest weapons and machines. And several interested third parties become involved concurrently, then the partisan has space for his own politics. That was Tito's situation in the last years of World War II. In the partisan struggles in Vietnam and Laos, the situation was complicated by the fact that the struggle between Soviet and Chinese communism had become acute. With the support of Peking, more partisans have been infiltrated into North Vietnam than Laos. In effect, that is a stronger help for the Vietnamese communists than the support of Moscow. The leader of the War of Liberation against France, Ho Chi Minh, was a follower of Moscow. The decisive factor in the decision whether to side with Moscow or Peking or to seek other alternatives depending on the situation became the amount of assistance. For such highly political relations, Schroer's book on the partisan found an apt formula. It speaks of the interested third party. That is a good expression. This interested third party is here not some banal figure, as is usually meant by this amusing proverbial expression. Rather, he is essential to the situation of the partisan, and thus also to this theory. The powerful third party may not only provide weapons and munitions, money, material support, and all types of medicine, he also creates the type of political recognition that the irregular fighter needs in order not to be considered in the unpolitical sense of a thief or a pirate, which here means not to sink into the criminal realm. From a longer perspective, the irregular fighter must be legitimated by the regular, and this means two possibilities are open to him: recognition by an existing regular power, or achievement of a new regularity through his own power. That is a difficult alternative. To the extent that the partisan is motorized, he leaves his own turf and becomes more dependent on technical industrial means which he needs for his struggle. This also causes the power of the interested third party to grow so that it ultimately reaches planetary proportions. Thus, all these aspects of the contemporary partisan appear to flow into the technical, industrial aspect that dominates everything. The technical, industrial aspect. The partisan also participates in the development, in the progress of modern technology and its science. The old partisan, who wanted to take his pitchfork in hand after the 1813 Prussian Lundsturm Edict, today appears comical. The modern partisan fights with automatic pistols, hand grenades, plastic bombs, and perhaps soon also with tactical atomic weapons. He is motorized and linked to an information network with clandestine transmitters and radar gadgetry. With airplanes, he has supplied weapons and food from the air. However, he is also, as today, 1962, in Vietnam, combated with helicopters and starvation. Both he and his enemies keep step with the rapid development of modern technology and its type of science. As English maritime expert called piracy the pre-scientific stage of sea war. In the same spirit, he would define the partisan as the pre-scientific stage of land war and declare this to be the only scientific definition. Yet, this scientific definition is also, and again, immediately surpassed because the disparity between sea war and land war is itself caught in the vortex of technical industrial progress, and today appears to the technician to be pre-scientific, thus already played out. The dead ride fast, and if they become motorized, they move even faster. In any case, the partisan on whose telluric character we have focused becomes the irritant for every purpose, rationale, and value rationale thinking person. He provokes nothing short of a technocratic effect. The paradox of his existence exposes an incongruity. The industrial technical perfection of the equipment of a modern regular army vis-a-vis the pre-industrial agrarian primitivism of real fighting partisans. Precisely this incongruity provoked Napoleon's rage against the Spanish guerrillas, and with the progressive development of industrial technology, this incongruity has been intensified still more. As long as the partisan was only a light troop, i.e. a tactically mobile hussar or sharpshooter, his theory remained a specialty of the science of war. Only Revolutionary War made him a key figure of world history. However, what is one to make of him in the age of atomic weapons of mass destruction? In a thoroughly organized technical world, the old feudal agrarian forms and concepts of combat, war, and enmity disappear. That is obvious. But do combat, war, and enmity thereby also disappear and become nothing more than harmless social conflicts? When the internal, immanent rationality and regularity of the thoroughly organized technological world has been achieved in optimistic opinion, the partisan becomes perhaps nothing more than an irritant. Then he disappears simply of his own accord in the smooth-running fulfillment of technical, functional forces, just as a dog disappears on the freeway. In a technologically focused fantasy, he is neither a philosophical, a moral, nor a juridical problem, and hardly one for the traffic cop. That certainly would be a purely technical view of the technical optimistic aspect. It would anticipate a new world with a new man. As is well known, the old Christianity and 2 millennia later in the 19th century, the new Christianity, socialism, had such expectations. Both lacked the totally destructive efficiency of modern technical means. But pure technicity, as obtains in such purely technical reflections, provides no theory of the partisan, but only an optimistic or pessimistic series of more or less powerful assertions of value and non-value. Value, as Ernst Forsthoff aptly put it, has its own logic, namely, the logic of non-value and the destruction of the bearer of non-value. The prognosticator of widespread technical optimism cannot avoid the answer to what concerns him, namely, self-evident assertions of value and non-value. He believes that an irresistible industrial technical development of mankind in and of itself transfers all problems, all former questions and answers, all former types and situations, to a completely new level on which the old questions, types, and situations become practically unimportant, just as questions, types, and situations of the Stone Age did after the transition to a higher culture. Then the partisan dies out, as did the Stone Age hunter, to the extent that he is not equipped to survive and to assimilate. At any rate, he becomes harmless and unimportant. But what if this human type that until now has produced the partisan succeeds in adapting to the technical industrial environment, avails himself of the new means, and becomes a new type of partisan? Can we then say that a technical industrial partisan has developed? Is there any guarantee that the modern means of mass destruction always will fall into the right hands, and that an irregular struggle is inconceivable? Compared with any progressive optimism, progress pessimism and its technical fantasies still have a greater field than most people are aware of today. In the shadow of the contemporary atomic balance of the world powers, under the glass cover, so to speak, of their enormous means of mass destruction, a margin of limited and bracketed war with conventional weapons and even means of mass destruction could be outlined, i.e., a situation that the world powers either could be mutually open to or silent about. That would provide one of these world powers with a controlled war and would be something like a dogfight. It would be the apparently harmless play of a precisely controlled irregularity and an ideal disorder, ideal insofar as it could be manipulated by the world powers.